Have you always wanted to start a food business? Well, you've come to the right place. Because in this episode, I interviewed a founder of a Melbourne startup who's taking the health food industry by storm. She's going from strength to strength, and she shares her number one tip for starting a food business. So let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Side Hustler's Handbook. I'm Emiley, your go-to girl for everything marketing and business related to help you hustle smarter, not harder. In this episode, I'm going to be chatting to my friend Genevieve Le Hunt, who is the founder of Bake Mixes, a healthy cake and baked goods mix, which she started in 2014. So she's gone from being made redundant to working full-time on her business, to going back to being a side hustler, to working full-time on her business, back and forth. She's the quintessential side hustler, and you're going to learn a lot from her in this video. If you're interested in food and are thinking you might want to start a food business, this is the episode you need to watch. So let's get into it. Hi Jen, how you going?
Hi, how are you?
Good. Welcome to the Side Hustlers Handbook. I'm so excited to have you here on my interview series. And yeah, how we know each other is through attending so many different wellness events in Melbourne.
Yep.
Which is so much fun. And yeah, when I had my health blog, and then you obviously in the early stages of your Bake Mixes business, I remember when we first met that you were telling me about your packaging issues and how you were stamping each
Stamping. Oh my
hand
God.
stamping every single packet.
So bad.
And I was like, this girl is an absolute hustler. She's got drive, that's for sure.
I know. I ended up at the physio with a shoulder like up here from like rolling and stamping the bags. Yeah. Really good look.
Well, Jen, I've got you here because you've started a food business 4 years ago, and it's onto great things, going on the up and up, and you're a part of some awesome stuff. So I'd love you to tell me a bit about you and about how you started Bake Mixes and why you started.
I started Bake Mixes. I came up with the idea in April 2014, and then it probably took about 6 months of work until I launched it on October 31st, 2014. So almost 4 years trading. The whole thing started because I liked my job enough. It was only part-time, but I knew I wanted to do something for myself. And I also really love cooking. So I wanted a way to combine that, and I never really found that. I was looking at PR jobs in the food industry or PR jobs that had food clients. So I was kind of already subconsciously looking out for that stuff. But it wasn't until I started making a cake, and I wanted to make it without eggs and without dairy and everything, because I am no dairy. And this was like ages ago when I first started. And I mean, people weren't making chia eggs. I mean, you couldn't go to Woolworths and get chia seeds. Like that stuff wasn't really so prominent just yet. And I had to make a recipe that said add chia eggs, and I had to make them. And I thought, I am a really good cook and I actually can't be bothered. And I thought, if I can't be bothered, surely other people there out in the world can't be bothered. Had a look in the supermarkets. Nothing that was there that was overly nutritious. There's a lot of like gluten-free stuff, which is awesome for celiacs, but not overly nutritional. Great from an allergy perspective. So I just thought, I'll bag them up, sell them at the local farmers market. Maybe I can make $150. That'll supplement my part-time income. Happy days. And things have got a little bit out of control since then. 4 years later, I definitely didn't think I would be doing what I'm doing now, which is awesome. And I think that's a really authentic way to probably run a business, but it's also maybe not the most clever way, because there's a lot of, we can go into that, strategies that I didn't put in place to start with. Since launching Bake Mixes, I have now about 350 retailers around Australia, which is really awesome. Looking at some export deals as well, which is really cool. We have the online store. We now have office. So things are definitely more than me kind of doing it on the dodgy on my lunch break and at quiet times at work. So things have grown a lot, and I'm loving it. We've had a lot of good media and stuff lately. I mean, we won a few awards. I was part of the Collective Hub startup package last year, which was amazing. Lisa Messenger is one of my like girl boss idols, so that was really amazing. And also now I'm part of the first Australian Chobani Food Incubator, which is a 4-month business mentoring program for food businesses, and the whole thing is for us to help carry on Chobani's legacy of make better food for better people. Oh my gosh, better food for more people. So it's been a really exciting journey, heaps of opportunities I never thought I would have. So that's been amazing.
So what is the Incubator Program? What does that really entail? Like, what do you go through?
It's intense but amazing. So it's 4 months, 1 week a month of training at either the Chobani head office or with their partner, the Monash Food Innovation Centre, which is this amazing facility at Monash Uni to help launch and scale and grow food businesses. It's epic. If anyone here has a food business, you should definitely check it out. There's awesome facilities and resources there. And we go through all aspects of having a business, from manufacturing, production, quality control, pricing, new product development, financials, grants, tax, sales, marketing. It's almost like a business school degree jam-packed. It's amazing. And I think a lot of people who start a business, at least for me, we never set out to start business. A lot of us don't have business degrees, especially not me. So there's a lot of things that for me, it's been an amazing opportunity to kind of look at my processes and everything from the start and then rebuild things up for better growth in the future with a really clear strategy and support and actual knowledge, not just me Googling like how to start a business, which I've Googled like how to start a food business. So
what other resources have you found useful while you've been on the food business journey? Like, what have you found has been a good way of getting that information for when you're starting?
I'm a huge podcast listener, especially when I walk the dog. And I like the Founder podcast. It's really, really good, especially. They're Australian based. So there's a lot of awesome interviews with Australian companies and also some other bigger ones. When I first started, I actually signed up to a course by someone called Marie Forleo. So I did her B School. I started that before I even had the business idea. And I kind of was doing that and I'm hoping for a business idea to come out at me while I was doing the course. And I was doing that from my side job, like literally like earphones in, 2 screens open. One has like a spreadsheet on it and one had her course.
What was your job before? What were you doing?
I was in public relations. So I was a PR coordinator for a consumer electronics company, which is very different to what I do now, which I loved. I love the PR side. I love the networking, building contacts, press releases, getting media. I loved all that kind of stuff. So that's come in really handy with the business, but totally unrelated to food, except that I would make a lot of cakes and bring them in. And that's kind of, it almost became like a combination of the two. Yeah. So, but I was actually made redundant from that role 2 weeks after I launched the business.
So what did that look like once you got made redundant?
That was really scary, to be honest. That's one of the most scary things that's happened. I mean, I went to uni for ages. I did a master's degree, finally got a job that I thought, this is it. This is my industry. Worked there for about a year, and then slowly, everyone was starting to be made redundant, which was scary. And I was like, PR's next. I was just waiting for it. You know, a salesperson went, then an admin person went, and I'm sitting there going, PR's next, PR's next. I know, like, on the list of people you need. And I would say that PR is very important, though. I wouldn't say it's one of the least important. It's incredibly important. But I knew that my time was up, and it was redundant effective immediately. So I went into the office, and it was kind of like, you know, we're going to have to let you go. You've done a great job. We're so happy with you. We're so sorry. It's just, you know, and it was a financial thing, and that's fine. And it was kind of like, you can go now, like, bye. Just you can go home, like 2:00 in the afternoon. I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? It was the scariest feeling. But it kind of I thought at the time it forced me into full-time entrepreneurship. But there's definitely a time when you then sit down and go, so I've got to pay my rent and I've got to buy food and I buy my dog's food and I need petrol and I need spending money to live. And at that stage, my business was only 2 weeks old. I'm not taking a salary at 2 weeks old. So scary, but definitely the right situation. I can see now why it happened.
But do you think having bake mixes already, you know, starting to get interest in stuff, that was probably for you, even just from your personal well-being perspective, did that kind of make you feel a bit more positive about what
It,
happened?
yeah, it did. And I actually had an interview the day after that, like being interviewed for like a blog of an activewear company and being profiled. And I was starting to get a little bit of interest because I was kind of one of the first to what I'm doing now. So I was kind of like, oh no, maybe it's meant to be. Maybe it's, forcing me. And it took me a couple of weeks before I was like, thought about the money situation. I definitely felt like it gave me an opportunity to focus on the business. And then I had to almost get a job that almost became the side hustle. My business has always been my focus. And anytime I've had work, which I've had on and off while having the business, I've almost mentally categorized, even if it's full time, the job is my side hustle. That's there for the money. And the business is the passion project. And that's my focus.
Awesome. So what did you do? So did you go straight into full-time on bake mixes and then that's where you've got to where you are today, or what has happened since then?
So my journey's been really interesting. I was made redundant. I had about a month or so because it was Christmas. So, being made redundant just before Christmas is excellent because no one's hiring at Christmas. Straight from there, I picked up a job in retail because I'd worked in retail a lot while I was at uni. Did a full-time contract there for 3 months managing a store and became so stressed and so sick from being stressed, as in the doctors like putting me on medication thinking I had some kind of issue because I was it's when the business was starting to really kind of start taking off. And I mean, I'd be checking emails out the back and running to the post office on my lunch break and, dropping orders off and packing orders before work and then packing them after work, which I mean, you've got to do at the start, you do, but I really pushed it. It was probably the wrong time to have a full-time job. So then I went down to casual work for a while. And then like any business, I've had ups and downs and I'm so open about that kind of side of the business. And then I went back into, I did some freelancing while I was working casually. And then I've always had a few jobs on the go. I've always been that kind of person. Then went back I did a full-time retail gig and it's fine for a few months. And it wasn't a very demanding job in particular, that role. So it was great that I could do my own work a little bit as well. But I mean, I was bringing in boxes of stock to the shop and bringing them into the shop, hiding them in the dressing rooms, and then getting my couriers to come in and pick them up from my work and take them out to my retailers. So they're all getting like picked up from the changing room at, I won't say where, but at my work. Kind of level, or getting deliveries. Like used to meet my suppliers on the rooftop of the car park and get them to unload from their car directly into my car, or I'd get them to deliver it to my parents' house. I'd drive back on my lunch break and unpack pallets. So I've always had like it's always been a bit of a side hustle, like in a big way, yeah.
I think when whoever invented the term side hustle, they created you as like the golden child of the side hustle.
It was really full on, but I mean, I look back at it now and I can laugh. But then I went into another operations role. I've gone in and out of work for so many years because you know what, you have to. And I'll say now, and I mean, as anyone who's watching this who is feeling really conflicted, because I think the two streams of thought that you hear are either keep your job, you should, or nah, stop it, quit your job, back yourself, you've got this. But you know what else you've got? Like bills and rent and maybe a mortgage, or maybe you're saving for a wedding or a holiday, or you've got other things in your life as well. And I remember reading a Marie Forleo quote, and just like, it's been proven in like a smart company study that businesses where the owner holds onto the job until they can financially pay themselves the correct wage, they are 33% more likely to succeed. And you look at people who've had side gigs like Damon from Shark Tank. I mean, they say John Legend had a side gig for years and years and years. I mean, from Spanx, Sarah Blakely, the billionaire founder of Spanx, had her job as well at the same time. I mean, it's not uncommon. It's also not embarrassing, and it's not anything I think people worry about, especially when you meet people and say, oh, so do you do this full time? If you can't, you can't. Like, people put a lot of pressure on that, and I think your business is going to be more successful if you're not struggling financially to leave, and then you end up resenting the business, which I've had times when I've done that. I'm like, oh no, I need to take this money out because I have to pay my rent, but I also need to buy these supplies for this or for this. And when we invest, like in entrepreneurs are investing in our business, and sometimes maybe you can't pay yourself a full-time wage, and I absolutely do not pay myself the kind of wage I would get paid if I lived. I mean, if I worked in PR still, absolutely not even, no, not at all. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think there's just two schools of thought, and I think the wrong one's being pushed at the moment for people. I think it's the whole quit your job just and do it. And then you end up failing because you go, oh my God, I can't make money. I can't take a wage. I can't do this. I can't pay my bills. I'm going to shut the business. And it's not about the business not successful. It's just that it's not there yet.
Absolutely. It takes time to build these businesses.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight. And I think I totally agree with you. I've come from that same school of thought of, I'm hating my job. How about I just quit and then do it and then realize, oh, maybe this wasn't the best idea. I can create work for myself, but it's not really strategic or well thought out, or, you know, allowing it that time to grow organically rather than, you know, trying to push all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's no reflection on anyone's business if you are still working at all. Like, not at all. It's actually, I think, a really strong sense of how driven you are, that you're happy to, you know, keep working and take jobs that, you know, maybe not in your industry, just so that you can take the pressure off your business a bit and have that freedom of a bit of extra cash flow to invest and grow the business. I think it's a smart strategy, if anything.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. If someone was wanting to start a food business, what sort of challenges have you come across, and like, what do you think are those sort of pivotal moments that you've had in your 4 year or almost 4 years that you could, basically give some insight into?
I think if you're starting a food business, you need to be really clear on where you want it to go. If you want to have a food business that you are going to make raw cakes, I don't know, I'm just making something up, make raw cakes and sell them at the local farmers market, and you can make a really good living doing that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. You need to know what level you want it to get to. So there's one thing making them in your kitchen and selling them. And then if you want a brand that you think, I want it in all of Woolworths and Coles, and I want to be having it in Whole Foods in the US, and I want this, it's a whole nother ball game. So you need to have a really clear vision for where it's going to go, because that will dictate everything from your manufacturing process, your margins. And I made a really big mistake in that I didn't calculate my margins well at all, totally incorrectly, because I was just going to sell them at the market. I was going to sell them for $15, make them for $5, you know, sell 20 of them, pay the store fee, walk away with $150. That was the whole strategy I had. And then when you get bigger and your vision grows and you have to cut more people into your supply chain, you're losing a lot of margin. So, I mean, I got myself, and that's another reason that I kept my job for so long, is that I got myself into a position of having to borrow money to invest in the business. And I wasn't in a position to fund it solely off the sales just yet and pay all of that back. So, know where you're going, because that will greatly affect your strategy. That's probably the most important thing to know.
Yeah, awesome. So what's the difference between the wholesale and the retail price for you? Like, what's that look like?
Yeah, so if you're in food, your so retail, when you're selling online, you can sell at the highest price, that's fine. If you're then bringing other people into your supply chain, so you've got a wholesaler, so they'll want 60%, and then you bring in, and that's standard for health food industry. Then if you're bringing in a distributor, they're going to want between 30 and 25% off the wholesale price as well, because they need to make money, and you need to cover their sales reps and their storage and their freight and everything they need, their electricity bills for their warehouse, all of that needs to be covered. So the more people in, suddenly you were making $10 selling them at the market, and then you're making $1, $2 with the distributor. It's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different level of needing to produce, because at that rate, then you then need to bring in someone to manufacture. So that's another cost. So that's why it's really important to know where you're going, so you can set your pricing up correctly from the start.
Yeah, amazing. So how did you find your your distributor, your manufacturer? Like, how did you find those resources?
Yeah. I was really lucky with the distributor because they approached me. which was excellent. I was never planning to go into retail. So a few stores started contacting me and I would just go and drop it off at their like local stores around Melbourne. And then the distributor contacted me, and that was a next level for me. That was, purchasing by the pallet rather than a box. So I now work with a few different distributors now. It's changed recently, but I work with a few different distributors around Australia. And my factory was the hardest thing. That's the biggest challenge I've had with a food business, is finding a good contract manufacturer. That can be very, very difficult. When you start a food business, you can make it yourself. You can hire a facility, buy equipment, and hire people to make it for you, or you can completely outsource it, which is what I do. But now I use a company called Endeavour Foundation, and I strongly recommend them to any food business watching. They are not-for-profit. So the people who work there have a disability, which means a disability that wouldn't let them work in a workplace, like a traditional workplace. So by working at Endeavour, they have all the access to superannuation, sick leave, they have social clubs, a wage, they've got that routine, they've got that social interaction, they've got responsibility, they've got somewhere to get up and have purpose to go to every morning. And it's the quality of what is made at a job where someone cares about and values their job is very different to the quality when you can tell people hate their job. You can see it in the product.
So what would be something that you've gotten out of starting a side hustle?
I love it. I absolutely love the hustle behind it. I love to get up and decide what I'm going to do. I love being in charge of anything, of my day, my strategy, my purpose, everything. I love it. I wouldn't go through. This is the thing with food businesses, and you see a lot of food businesses start up, and then after a year or so, they kind of disappear a little bit. It's hard. It is really hard. No one will tell you that food is easy. We make jokes and say, oh my God, I wish I had started like a cushion cover business. Food is difficult because you're creating a consumable good for humans, right? So that comes with its own list of responsibilities and quality issues. But I would never have realized how resilient I am unless I had the business. I mean, it takes a lot to rattle me now. Before a lot of the things I've dealt with, even now, literally today, I've got massive thing going on with lawyers and everything like that. And it's just the resilience I've developed is something that I think if it all goes bad and the business stops and I end up in a job, I think, I'll be really well placed, with the skills I've developed running a business and dealing with pressure kind of situations. So that's for me, the challenges I've gone through, resilience is something I never really would have thought I would get out of it, but I have in spades.
I think I completely agree with you. Starting your own business, you learn so much that you could never learn in a degree or a job, like a corporate gig. Like, it's just next level, and you're learning so quickly as well. So just to close, like, what would be your number one tip for someone wanting to start a food business? What would be your number one tip right now?
Okay, know your margins. That's it. Know your margins and know the margins you're going to need when you grow. That if I could go back and just punch myself in the face and say, these are the wrong margins, do it properly, I would have saved myself a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of tears. That's the best thing I can tell you. And probably in any business, clothing, any kind of product-based business, know your margins and know what they're going to need to be when you're at the next level.
It's so practical, but like you said, it's something that's going to make or break your business in the long term as well. And Absolutely. Totally agree. Having some sort of plan or vision at least in place of what you're trying to achieve, and then being able to work back from there. I think, that's critical.
Absolutely. If you're a product-based business and you can't look at a product and say, from ordering the ingredients, paying for the freight of the ingredients, buying the packaging, paying for the import costs of the packaging, manufacturing it, tax, shipper boxes, shelf-ready trays, getting it packed, how much does the pallet cost, getting the pallet freighted to your distributor. If you don't know how much that costs per unit, you're in trouble. So go and learn those numbers if you don't know them.
So thanks so much, Jen. You've provided so much insight into how to start a food business and what are the key things to focus on. And yes, I'm sure everyone will understand that margins are where you should be focusing on, especially when you're wanting to grow your business, for sure. So where can we find more about Bake Mixes?
You can find me at bakemixes.com.au and Bake Mixes on Instagram. Otherwise, I'm Genevieve Le Hunt on Instagram as well. And you'll probably see me around a little bit on social media and in some new stuff we've got coming out. So hopefully that passes through people's news feeds. That would be good.
Amazing. So I'll provide links to all of those in my description below. But yeah, thanks so much, Jen, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks. See ya.
So how great is Jen? Seriously. So remember, her number one tip is to work out your margins and understand your vision for your business. So while selling your product at a market is great, in the long term, your margins based on what your product can sell for at a market are going to be different. So really understand your product and make sure across all the costs. So that brings us to the end of another episode. I hope you got something out of it. Make sure you subscribe to my channel because I'll be doing more interviews like this with side hustlers. If there's anyone I should know about, make sure you comment below. And I will see you next Tuesday for another episode. Look forward to seeing you then. Bye for now.